Alright, today we're going to do a spark plug change on a 2013 S550. Has a 4.6 liter twin turbo, and I do a lot of experimenting, trying different things, but I think if you watch the video and make sure you get all the correct tools, you can probably do it in probably about 2 hours. Alright, here's a list of the tools that we're going to be using. Okay, you're going to need a 25 millimeter Torx head for the air boxes. That takes the air boxes apart so you can change the filters. You should go ahead and change the filters while we're doing this, since you've got them off anyway. You need a 3/8" ratchet, a short extension that has a lock on it. Okay, now this is very important. I wouldn't do the job if I didn't have this part here, because whenever you're getting your spark plug socket inside the head, it's way up inside there, and this can get stuck. This can get stuck on the spark plug up inside the head really easy. So I like to always lock that on the socket, so that when I'm done tightening it down, I know I can get this socket out. Okay, very important. 3/8 with the lock on it. Now, this is very important. You have to have a 12-point 14 millimeter socket, thin walled. Okay, if you don't, you know you're going to have problems, because a 14 millimeter 6-point won't fit on the spark plug. Here's your plugs here. Okay, this is the original Mercedes plug that came out of it. Alright, now you might say, well, I've got a 15 millimeter and shoot, it fits on there fine, that'll take it out. No, that'll work its way down onto the base of that and tighten down on here and make it almost impossible to get it off, and you'll have to tap it off probably. So only use the correct socket here. Now, I use the Bosch double iridiums, and these had the exact same numbers on it as the original Mercedes plugs did around the base here. I also like to use a little bit, very sparingly use a little bit of bulb grease, and I'll take just a little bit of this and put it around here, and this makes facilitating putting the boot back on there a whole lot easier. It'll slide right on there, and it's, you know, you're way down inside there. It'll slide on a lot easier with just a slight bit of dielectric grease on there. Now you also need a 1/4" ratchet, short extension, swivel, and a 1/4" socket, and that's for the coil packs. They have 2 bolts in each coil pack that needs to come off, or that's for that. So now you need a breaker bar. I put on my ratchet, so when I'm down inside there, you know, this gives me some leverage on there. It makes it a lot easier to loosen the plug. Then I've got a screwdriver, so that when I've got a couple of my sockets down inside there and they're together, I can take and pry them apart. Okay, when I'm down inside there, I can't reach it, I can sit there and pry them apart like that and just pop them apart when they're down inside the, you know, real close to the head in there. Okay, and then I've got a pry bar that I use to get the spark plug wires off. I'll show you how to use that. I got my torque wrench, and I believe that the correct torque setting is 23 nanometers for the plugs. I'm not positive, you might want to double check on that. Now, as far as using anti-seize on the threads here, I've heard both ways on that, and I didn't use any on mine because a lot of the newer plugs have the chrome coating on here, and they, you know, I think a lot of the manufacturers say anymore that you don't need to use any anti-seize on there. These came out pretty easy. I had a slight, real light oil coating on the threads, so they came right out. So I didn't put any anti-seize on there. I guess that's up to your preference. Now you can tell on the air cleaner covers here that I've already got these loose. I've already had already been working on it, but I thought it might be a good idea to show you where the clips are on these so that you don't break anything taking them off. First pieces you would remove would be your front two pieces. They would pull off. They have two clips to fit in on your airbox cover, and also this ball right here fits in this little socket right here. So that just pops on there like that. Over here, this piece pretty much basically the same thing. It has the two clips and the ball. It fits right on there. Now the next piece that would come off would be the center cover, and it would come off from the front, and it's got a clip right underneath here. It has two clips back here, two clips back there. Turn it over and show you. So see, this is the base right here where this clip goes into. These two here go into the air boxes, and then the rear clips here fitting back here. So then this piece would come off, and then you can see that I took my 7mm, loosened these bands, took the air boxes off already. Now they have a fitting back here that you have to undo. So it's got a little lock on there. You want to undo the little lock there, pull these off. See, it's mounted right on the back there. Then on the other side, it's basically the same as the other, except this one has a little harness that runs from the front, and it has kind of a eighth of a turn to put that little fitting in there. Then it has, take this back out, and it has the fitting back here that this plugs into. This plugs into here. Now, what I always like to do is to loosen the air boxes first so that I can get them moved back slightly. Because a lot of times you don't want to break or damage, these air inlet pieces. So a lot of times I think if you take the air box loose first, instead of trying to get them off, while it's still connected, it helps. Now these attach with just two push-on pieces here, two little rubber bushings here and here. So when you go back to put them on, you can just line them up right on there like that, and just push down. Once you get your hose in here. Now I've got a couple of bags over top of the tubes there because I want to make sure I don't get any dust or dirt inside there. So now I'm going to give you just a little bit of a summary on how I got started. Because once you've got the air cleaner off, you can see you've got your four coil packs on this side. Each one's held on by two bolts. A 1/4-inch socket will fit on those. Not like using the 1/4-inch ratchet, because it's easier to get inside here, especially when you get back in here. It gets tighter. You might have to even use a swivel. But I found I didn't have to take any of the connections off on the coils, because I don't like to fool with those any more than you have to, because they're pretty easy to break sometimes, especially when they get a little older. So once you remove the two bolts, that coil will be loose, and what I do is I'll pull it down just a little bit to where I can get my pry bar in there and just gently work that boot off of there, because that spark plug wire, if you feel down underneath here, you can just feel the bottom of the wire, and it's got a little lever, a little plastic edge on there that you can use to push it back in, and if your fingers were strong enough you could maybe pull it out, but I couldn't. I had a hard time getting the boots off. I didn't want to force anything, so using the pry bar easily over the top of the coil here, just prying it out, motion, and that seemed to work work the best. Now I wanted to try and show you when I got to the rear, it's really hard to get my hand in there to get that's probably the hardest part of the job, I think, is getting the spark plug boots off, you know, because you've got your hand down there, you're trying not to mess anything up. It's plastic, rubber. So what I did was most of them I would pull the coil pack over to the side. Got this moved it towards the front. I could get my pry bar in there very gently on the spark plug wire, just putting enough force on it to pull it out, you know, to force that out a little bit, and it would pop that off. Now you have to be very careful because this is all plastic, rubber. You got your spark plug there, so you just have to do it very gently and just try to make sure you keep your angle correct and on the boot coming off of there. When I was doing the 2 rear cylinders on the car, I found out, you know, it's getting closer in there. When I got to the rear cylinder on the passenger side, I found out when I took the coil pack loose, I didn't really have enough room to work with the spark plug wire. So I had to take the connection off the injector, unlock the little fitting here, pulled this off, got that off the injector, and then I could get enough room to move this out of the way slightly. And I did have to pry a little bit on the plug wire, and what I would do is get the coil out of the way a little bit, get my pry bar in there, and just kind of pry back on it as I pull with my hand, just very gently, because that is hard plastic on that boot in there, and you don't want to force anything. Just kind of work it nice and easy. Then this coil pack will come out of the way. And I found a little trick, and notice I still got my rag down there in case I drop sockets, bolts, or anything in there. Get this out of the way. Now I noticed a little trick I found, that if I take my magnet and put it on the spark plug, it allows me to get the plug down in there and get it into that cylinder hole right there. You just want to make sure you go nice and straight, go right in there, because there's actually a little place that it fits right into in there. Okay, and then once you get the spark plug in there, because I've already put one in there, your short extension and spark plug socket will fit in there then, because with the plug on it, I couldn't get the spark plug socket and extension in there. And you need to keep your extension on the spark plug socket locked on there so that you can pull your socket off the plug, because it's going to be on there kind of snug with the rubber holding it. So I've got the extensions all the way in now, and it's not out quite far enough to put the ratchet on. So you can either use your swivel to come out a little bit there, or you could use a wobble, put it on there, and then once you do that, that gets you out there enough where you can get your ratchet on there, okay? And once I'd had my ratchet on there, then I'd use my little breaker bar, gently, straight, everything's straight lined up, to get that loose then, using the breaker bar on top of the 3/8 ratchet. The problem is back in there, you just can't get the spark plug socket and extension in there with the spark plug on it. There's just not enough room. And you have to keep this, I think you have to keep this extension locked on there, because that socket gets stuck on that plug in there and you can't reach it with your hand. So you got to keep that locked on there so that you can get that off the plug there. I've got the coil pack loose on the front cylinder on the driver's side. So what I do, if I can't get it with my finger on get the spark plug wire off, I'll move the coil pack out of the way a little bit, get my pry bar in there, and get a nice straight pull off the end of the plug with my pry bar, and then that'll usually pop it off just like it did right there. Never force it. Make sure that your pull is straight out from the spark plug and not pushing down, pulling up too much. Just straight out. I did cut this little band off the wire harness right here to give me enough room to get this coil pack plug wire out of the cylinder and be able to move that back out of the way then. There it is. Yeah. So that gives me plenty enough room like that then. Alright, now I put a little dielectric grease here on the shaft of the plug for the boot cover, and also up here to keep it from rusting any. Alright, now I took one of my other short extension off of here because I don't think it, with the plug on here, it's going to fit in there with the other extension. So I'll use one extension, put the spark plug in there. I got it lined up and putting it in there now. Then I'll go to my other short extension, put it on the end, finish hand tightening it. Alright, let me get my torque wrench. I've got it set to 23 newton meters. There we go. Nice, make sure everything nice and straight. There we go, 23 newton meters. Now you want to take your torque wrench off. I believe with the spark plug off, I can get everything out at one time. There we go. Like I say, always use your extension with the lock on it on the spark plug socket, always, so you can get it back out. Alright, I'm going to the next cylinder back on the driver's side. I'll just go ahead and see if I can take this off in real time. Like I say, I've got my rag laid down just below the spark plug area, so if I drop anything, it'll catch on the rag, knock it down, drop down in there somewhere where I can't get the bolts out. I'm pretty good at dropping things. Like I say, I'm using a 1/4 inch ratchet on these because it's a little easier to get the 1/4 inch sockets into some of these places. What I'll do is I'll take both these loose. Sometimes one of them loose, and then very carefully remove them. I'm going to half a turn on them. Alright, never leave them on the coil. Okay, so I've got this coil loose. I'm going to pull it back just a hair. Get some light in there. I can see my plug wire. Alright, so I'm looking for my pry bar. Alright, so I got my pry bar. I'm going to pull the coil back a little bit just to get it out of the way. Okay, I'm going to pry. And I'm not prying hard now. I'm just getting, with this long a lever. See, that's coming off there nice and easy. That one came off real easy. It's just hard to get your hand down up underneath there to get down, but that one came off nice. I'll set it up here. Alright, on this second cylinder here, it looks like I've got enough room to get my spark plug socket and my short locked extension on there. I don't have quite enough room to get my ratchet on there, so I'm going to use my swivel, I think, on here to get me out far enough. Alright. I'll get my ratchet on there. Get it around here where it's a little better. And I'm going to use my bar here. Make sure I got everything nice and straight. This one's a little snugger. So that one was snug. Okay, we got it broke loose. So that'll come out fine. Now what I'll have to do is loosen this up a little by hand. And then I'll have to use my screwdriver to get this swivel off there probably. Well, no, it'll pull off. Sometimes I have to pry them off because I don't want to pull it off the spark plug. Once I get that out far enough, take the swivel off. Now I've just got my extension and the spark plug socket on there. It's got loose, should be enough room, I think, to come out. Nope, not quite enough room. So what I'm going to have to do is unlock my extension off my spark plug socket. There we go. And now, here's where a magnet comes in handy sometimes if you can't get your fingers down there real well. You pull it out with a magnet. There we go. There we go. I was about ready to use my magnet to put the plug in the cylinder there, but I think this is going to just fit with my extension locked on there. There you go. Just enough space to get that in there. So I'm going to get this in the cylinder, get it started, and after I get it started then I'm going to put my swivel on there and then torque it down. Alright, now that I've got that finger tight, I've got my little swivel on there. I'm going to get the okay, I've got my torque wrench on there now. I'm just going to torque it down 23 newton meters. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to have to take my swivel off of the extension. So it won't come out. That's why I use my screwdriver in there. So this is why I have the screwdriver. Makes taking the extensions off, and taking them apart a lot easier. And this will come out then without the plug being on it fine. There we go. The third cylinder back on the driver's side was no problem. I got my ratchet, my spark plug socket with my extension on there. Then I added the swivel to it to get it out a little bit further. Alright, breaker bar. Get this ratchet around here. Okay, make sure it's all the way on the spark plug. Nice straight through. There we go. That works. Now I found out when I was trying to get the plug out, this back cylinder here, it's not going to come out with the extension and the socket on there. So what I'm going to have to do is reach down in there and unlock my extension from the socket. This might take me a second, so I'll shut this off till I get it. Alright, I use my screwdriver to get my extension unlocked off the spark plug socket. So now it's down in the cylinder a little bit. I'm going to use my magnet to get that down in there and get it out. You can use your fingers if they're small enough to fit in there. If not, then I use the magnet. The magnet works nice. Now, putting this plug back in, I found out it's easier for me put it on a magnet, get it over there, and drop it straight in the hole there. Make sure you got it lined up. Just drop it straight in the hole there. Then I can take my spark plug socket and put it on my locked extension, and then I've got room to get that in there on the plug. And then once I get that over the top of the plug, I just get it seated, I can feel it, and now I'm just tightening it into the cylinder, and it's a lot easier to get it on, for me, it's a lot easier to get it on that way. And I'll do the same thing in the rear cylinder because it's going to be even tighter. Now I got the rear coil pack loose. It's got a little strap holding it on, well, holding the harness there, so I got to cut that. I'll replace that when I'm putting it back on, but I had to take that off so I'd have enough room to move that coil pack enough. So now, see, now I can get it back out of the way. I can get my pry bar in here. And see, this is why I put the dielectric grease on the boots too, so that they come off and go on a lot easier. Nice and easy, straight out. See, ooh, just that's the ticket right there. Just get it right down on there. It just nice and easy and straight. That was the hardest part of this operation, you know, doing this. I thought at first, but now it's getting a little easier as I go. So now I'm getting ready. I'm ready to take that back one out. Still got my rag down here in case I drop anything, and that's probably going to be about the same technique as I used in the cylinder in front of it there. It's about the same amount of room. Okay, so the back cylinder is basically the same as the other one in front of it there. I've got the spark plug socket, the short extension locked on, put the swivel on there. Now I'm going to use a breaker bar on here. Should get it all nice and straight lined up. Here we go. I'll take the swivel off first, and then that should pull on out. Okay, there was not quite enough room to get the extension and socket and plug out. It's not quite enough room, so I'm going to undo the my lock on my extension. I think I might be able to get this a little easier with I got my finger on it. There we go. Okay, got that off. Now, like I say, because that's kind of tight down in there, I'll just use my magnet. Here we go. With a good, you know, the right spark plug wrench holds the plug on there real nice. Okay, I'm going to put the plug back in the rear cylinder. I've got a little bit of dielectric grease on it. I'm going to use my magnet. I like using that more than my fingers. It does a little bit better for me. Okay, got right in the cylinder there. I'll make sure I get lined up there. Alright. Now, I'm going to take my ratchet socket with my extension on there. It will fit. Just going to pop it on the end of the plug. And it's tightening in the cylinder. I'll finish this up. Okay, I just got through torquing down the rear plug. Yeah, everything's so tight. Like I said, I'm going to use my screwdriver to get my swivel off the extension. Just separate them. It's really tight in there. There we go. I just left it on here. It was kind of locked onto the torque wrench, and then just pried it off with the screwdriver. I'm going to try my magnet here. Not sure if I got enough room to get everything out of there or not. See, it's still snug on the plug a little bit. There we go. Yep, that'll come out of there. So here we go. So that was the last one. Now I'm going to make sure I put my bands back on, back here, small band, and small band right here. Hold that harness back on there correctly. Okay, so here it is. We're all done. I got everything, got all the coil packs back on, got everything buttoned up. And this is my first video, first time posting on YouTube. And if you see some other weird videos on my channel, it's my grandson's, because I have to share my channel, I guess, with my grandson, since he already has some videos on there. So just take your time, and like I said, just kind of follow, have a little patience, and should be able to get the job done. Thank you.